This is my first visit to Ninasam. I was to come last year to speak on environment law, but my son fell ill with typhoid, and Claude was away at the Organic World Conference. He was in the preparation stages, and I couldn't ask him to stay back, and so I did. And I couldn't come, but I am delighted to be here today, my first visit, and it is everything that Claude said it was, how wonderful the atmosphere is, the kind of system that is happening with getting people involved in theater and in culture and in different subjects and topics. And the 1.5 days that we have spent, unfortunately, I cannot spend more time because of me. I have some court matters tomorrow, and we have to return. We thought that I should begin, and I'll speak for maybe 20 minutes, and then Claude will take over, and then we'll answer questions. Reimagining education. To reimagine education, I think we have to begin by reimagining ourselves. Because if we don't reimagine ourselves, and if we stay in the same way as we have been brought up in the conventional systems that we are criticizing today, how then do we actually reimagine and implement a different pattern of education for our young people, our children? So I'd like to take off from the question that was asked yesterday, which is a question which always comes up. Well, sir, we agree with your views and they're really good, but how do we do it? How do we implement what we are imagining, what we are talking about? And therefore, to understand how we could see a different way of education for our children, I would like to begin by telling you something about ourselves and how we changed ourselves gradually, molding ourselves with the thoughts that were in our mind, implementing them at different stages in our life. And I'm trying to bring 40 years of living together with our children into the 20 minutes that is with me. So we came from very conventional backgrounds, ordinary students, ordinary young people, middle-class families from Bombay. We went to regular schools. We were good at our studies. We were not at the back of the class. We both did well, independently and differently. We went to college. We met in college. We spent part of the time out of the class and part of the time in the class. Otherwise, how does love blossom and grow? And we did well in college as well. So we went into college, undergraduation, we did post-graduation. And during the time of our college and our graduation and our higher studies, we began to think and discuss, like some of the others in our group and our class, about this country, where it is going, how it is going, this divide between the haves and the have-not, the affluent and those who cannot afford, the caste system, all the topics which come up, which somehow we took a little seriously, a little more seriously than just passing discussions and forgetting about them. And after post-graduation, Claude went on to Holland. He did his doctorate over there. I later acquired a law degree. But in the course after our studies, we had jobs. I was lecturing in a college in Bombay. I was teaching at graduate level. He was working with the newspapers, and he also had a job in the college for some time. But we took a decision at that time, because of our understanding of society and how things were, we decided that when we married, we were not going to just sit in the same place teaching the same students who could afford a college education and so on. we wanted to go out somewhere and do something for what you would call unprivileged people, underprivileged. So we decided, and we made that one decision, which I think is the root of the way in which we have been able to take our life forward. That one decision was to leave the city. Now, it's a big decision. My parents were totally opposed to it, of course. They said, where are you running off with this madman and going off somewhere into some idealistic thoughts that you have? You know, you'll have a family and so on. But you know, love conquers all, as they say. And we decided that we would do something different, that we wanted to do something different. We wanted to make the world very naively a better place than it was. And with that, we decided to move to Goa. Now, Goa 40 years ago was not the happening place that it is now, not the honeymoon capital of India, not the place where everyone dreams of going to and holding hands and, you know, strolling about in shorts and mini skirts and so on. Goa was then pretty rural. It was, there was not much electricity in the villages. Most of the places were villages. Even the city, capital city, was a sort of a bigger village. And we went and lived in the extreme end of Goa, one extreme end, in a very poverty-stricken place, where there was small hamlets, and we had a kind of project there. I don't want to go into that. But in that village, we learned what living in rural life was about. We suffered, you can say, the consequences of no electricity, last bus at 3 p.m., very often not there, and so on. 2 of our children were born while we were on the farm out there. And I learned from the women there how you bring up a baby without a Cerelac bottle, without a Cerelac tin. What do you do? How do you feed? How do you look after illnesses? What happens? What do you do? You can't panic. The nearest doctor is like 30 minutes by the jeep, and the jeep may not always start. So I learned in a willing sense, and I'm pointing that out particularly because I was a city-brought-up girl. And I took to the village in a positive spirit. I didn't look at the negative parts of it. I was happy to learn. I wanted to learn. We learned about agriculture. I learned about dairying. We had cattle. I learned to deliver a calf. I learned to milk not a cow, but a goat. I reached because it was tough and my hands were small. And learned all about farming. At that time, I had thought to educate the children ourselves, because after all, I'm a postgraduate, and surely I can teach them something, and that was our idea. Besides, schools were very far away. So the idea was to homeschool them, not with any other idea in mind, but just simply out of circumstance. But circumstances changed. We came to a place closer to the capital city, Panjim, Mapsa. We lived in a village called Para, where we still live. That was a community. Where we were living earlier was a sort of isolated place, but we were now in a community of persons. It had a school, it had a church, it had a temple, it had, these kind of things. And our boys reached the sort of schooling age. We have 3 sons. Our 3rd son was born while we were in Para. We also had in between, by the time we had come to Para, we had set up the Goa Foundation, an environment organization. We set up the Other India bookstore. This came from our past of academic life, you can say, but it was a bookstore with a difference. We threw out all the academic ideas of the academic books. We were not going to keep academic books. We decided that we are going to keep books which come from the south, what you call third world, north as opposed to south. So we had no books from England and no books from America, none of your Oxford and all the big companies. We wanted books that were locally published. We took the NGO literature because it was au courant, up to date, giving you a perspective of life on the other side, and that's how you have the word Other India, not the India which is of the cities, but the other India, which the postman always called Mother India, for whatever reason. So we had the bookstore. I was interested very much in animal welfare, and we set up animal shelters. We run 2 animal shelters now. And besides that, other than the bookstore, PFA, what else? Anyway, there were these NGOs which we had set up, which we had to look after. And so teaching kids or educating them entirely at home became a kind of slightly questionable idea. Would I have the time? Would it be possible? Because I also wanted to do all these things. How would we manage everything? Besides, the point that somebody mentioned about socializing, getting the kids involved with the neighborhood, with people in the area. So we sent them to the village school. That is another choice that I'd like you to bear in mind. We didn't send them to what you call a good school. Because good schools are schools which control you. Because how do they make you good? They make you good because they tell you everything that has to be done so that you can get up and recite poetry properly, and you can do various things, and you can do everything which the teachers and the admin tells you to do. But you go to a village school and they're quite loose about things. Okay, you come a little late, well, get inside. Okay, you didn't bring your tiffin box and you want to go home, well, go. Things like that. So they went to a local school. We put them into Konkani medium, not the English medium. In fact, I remember some of the parents in the neighborhood wanted to go to English medium, and they came to me to lead the campaign, and they thought that I would want English medium for my children. And I said, no, I'm putting them in the Konkani medium. And that appalled people. They were surprised because here is a family, obviously an educated couple, and here they are sending them to the village school, and they're sending them in Konkani medium, and so on. Our children till today converse among themselves in Konkani. They talk to us in English, but they talk among themselves in Konkani. So they are very familiar with the language. So they went to the Konkani medium, and we were not, while they went to school, they had their entire gang of friends. They also went by whatever you call their local transport. Local transport for them was either their 2 feet or it was a cycle. So they had these choices. We didn't fetch them and bring them and do things like that. And that opened a wonderful world, because when they talk about things, they always talk about how they plucked cashews on the way back, how they threw stones maybe at mangoes, how they watched in the little rivers for fishing things and, looking at what. It develops your sense with nature, with the world around you. You know things that are happening around you, and you're not gone to school and brought back home. So the world of school, in Goa they have a half-day school, starting at about 8:15 or 8:30 and ending at about 1:30. But they would reach home 2:30, but they were with a gang of friends walking home, like their other friends. So there was an atmosphere which they had, and they learned things. Simultaneously, while they were in school, we always encouraged them in whatever was their pursuit. We have 3 boys, and they are pretty different from each other. The eldest one was always very focused. He knew what he wanted. He was a nature lover. He was a nature person. He went into wildlife, and he has remained in that kind of atmosphere. He knows, he can tell you stories that will engage you with wildlife, but if you ask him who the Prime Minister of the country is, he might not know. So his knowledge is very, very focused and very, very, very deep into whatever he wants. It is also very much self-knowledge. He would sit on the ground, and I would ask him, what are you doing, Rahul? And he would say, I'm watching this line of ants. See how this ant is overtaking that ant, how that one will fight with this. Now watch, this will happen. So it was all a very, very personal experience. Eventually, he went into wildlife. He became a snake handler, a pathologist. He handled snakes for the entire village, so we became very, very famous. They didn't need to say Claude's house or the advocate's house. They would say Rahul's house, because who doesn't want to know a snake catcher? You might not want anybody else, but you want a snake catcher. So he was into wildlife. The second boy was, there were no clear ideas on what they wanted to do, but we helped them to do what they wanted to. I thought that my second son was very good in music. I put him into music school. He stayed there for a while. In fact, he was good. He was the opening player for some performance of theirs, what they had. But he got bored because, like every Goan, he likes music and football. And football took over. Music took a backseat. He told me, I don't want to go. I said, fine. You don't want to go? That's it. Okay, we'll close music class. So he went into, went into studies and so on. He did his studies. They both, all three of them, completed their school with varying degrees of proficiency. And as Claude told you yesterday, we told the teachers that we are not particular that they come first in the first of the whatever it is. My eldest son did come. He was a state ranker, but the other two were not. And we didn't make any bones about it one way or the other. In the course of their upbringing, you can say, among the things that I would like to point out that we paid attention to, one was that we spent time with them. And I think that is something that you need to do. You cannot reimagine education, and you cannot imagine a different way for the generation to come if you are not willing to spend time with them. And spend time with them does not mean being after them or telling them what to do. It means being around. If somebody wants to know something, you're there. I made it a point because we both traveled, Claude much more than I did, and Claude had to also travel to earn a living in some senses to feed everybody. I made it a point to be at home on the weekends, come what may. I would not take a single engagement if it was on a weekend, because I felt that was the time when children are around and they are likely to ask you something. You are likely to sense if they are not happy. You can make out, they find you doing nothing in the kitchen as they think that you're doing nothing. So they will come and say something, and you get some sense of where it is going. So we took time to spend time with them. We had one rule, no TV. And now how do you get children to swallow that? No TV. Everyone has a TV. Of course, this was 25 years back, where not everyone had a TV, and most people had black and white TV, and there was that Ramayan program going on. I'm talking about that time, when the whole village closed down between 10 a.m. to 1, and everybody watched Ramayan. My children also went and watched Ramayan. I said, go to the neighbor's house, you can watch Ramayan over there. So they did that. But how did we explain no TV? They said, what is this? Everybody's got TV and all. So we explained it to them this way. We said, see, the ones who do the TV, who are in the TV box, the ones who are there, they are the ones who have traveled, they've seen things, they've gone places, they have ideas, and they put them up. And the ones who are watching are the ones who are watching. They don't do anything. They just watch what somebody else has done. Now you make a choice. You want to be in the box there telling people what you have done. You want to be the watcher. You choose. If you want to be the watcher, then okay, we don't take you here and there. You can, you get what I'm saying. So we put it to them that we will take you, and we did. I would take them to the beach, I would get in the water with them, we would swim, we would take them on our travels, and that's another thing that I want to say. It's not necessary for children only to mix with children when they are small. You know, these kiddies, you go and play with the kids. And when you become an adult, you can talk with us. We had numerous friends visiting us from numerous places across India and across the globe. We had Chinese and African and, I'm not talking about every day like that, but people who came. And the children could interact with them. We never said that this is not a place for you. They sensed if there was something difficult we were talking about, something, or maybe once or twice I might have to say we are talking about something personal. But otherwise, we let them interact, because there's nothing like interacting with adults which opens the minds of children and which puts their horizon further, and which also, where they can test their own ideas. Rahul would be explaining his points to them. Samir would tell about football, how the game, he could converse on football with anybody, and so on. So they always talked with people So we took them on trips with us. We came to Kerala, we brought, not only we took them, we would tell them, each of you, well, out of the 3 of you, you can bring 2 friends along with you, because, they'd have some company. So we thought that the neighbors' kids also could come along, and they would have some company. They could chat among themselves in Konkani, saying whatever funny things they thought were happening. That fellow looks like this, or whatever. But they had company. They were traveling, and I think that travel broadens your mind like nothing else does. You learn about different cultures, you learn about different foods, you don't stick to bread, butter, and jam, you eat upama, and you go somewhere else and you eat different things. You acquire different tastes, you learn to appreciate. So we traveled with them, we took them on our travels. What about school? They went to school. Well, I also taught them how you deal with exams, because teachers are a very predictable lot. They're not going to ask you questions from nowhere. They're not going to test you really. They want to see that a sizable portion, maybe 70% of the class passes. So what are they going to do? They're going to ask you the same questions. Even in the board exams, I taught my son, you go to the board exam, the paper, the whatever, university, you ask for the last 5 years questions, find out what are the regular ones that come, find out which are the optional ones that come, study what, make your choices. You can gamble. And the gamble will pay off. And so I taught them things like that. I also helped them with homework. Sometimes the homework is so damn mindless. To make a child make 30 sums of the same damn stupid thing, multiply into so and so. So I would say, okay, let's see if you know it. Fine, I'll do the remaining 20 sums. Go. So I did that. I helped them with homework. I watched and saw that, well, they understood the points. Sometimes they disagreed, and they had bad experiences. I remember Rahul said that in college when he was there, the teacher insisted that a particular snake or snakes were oviparous. Cobras were viviparous rather than oviparous. He pointed out the mistake. The teacher blacklisted him. She wouldn't even, look at him. She was angry. And he came and said, I just told her the correct thing. And then she wrote. But I said, well, you learned how it is. Next time, figure out how you correct some teacher. Or well, don't bother to correct them, whatever it is. So my younger son came home. Mama, is mangrove a mango grove? That's what the teacher said. I said, no, a mangrove is not a grove of mango trees. It's something else. So there were these issues, but you see, we didn't ridicule the teachers. After all, they are all village teachers, they are from close by and so on, and they don't know. Forget about the village teachers. When I argued one of my first cases in court, and I was talking about sand dunes, and I was trying to explain with all my power and whatever, I was trying to explain the importance of sand dunes. And here was a judge. He says, it's not necessary for you to explain about sand dunes. We have all played with sand castles when we were on the beach. I didn't know. I lost my case, I thought, at that moment. I did lose that case. But if a sand dune, the judge equates with a sand castle which you make, then where's my environment law? Where am I trying to convey something? So let me not blame the teachers. But what we explain to them is that everybody has limited knowledge. Teachers have limited knowledge. Well, you know something more, you've studied more, and so on. And in this sort of manner, we try to raise them, well, partly you can say within the school system, but they were never hemmed in from the school system. If they wanted to stay home, I made an excuse, I made up something, and I sent it to the school. I tried to tell the teachers the truth, but no teacher wants to know the truth. So they would say, please, ma, just say I'm sick. No, otherwise they ask us so many things. So some things like that, a bit of a this and that. But what we wanted to put into them was certain good moral values, good ideas, how to live your life, how to deal with others. If you see a bird which is fallen and sick, or something is wrong, pick it up, don't kick it. These are important values for us. And when I think of what I would like an educated person to be, I think that I would I would like, if I would call a person educated, if a person has a questioning mind and wants to learn always, no matter what it is. You want to learn cooking, why not? You want to learn something else. My children would converse with the maids who came from our village in Valpoi. Her brother would come and he would tell them stories. He was a great storyteller. Some of these guys in the village really can tell you the stories very dramatically, like we have seen the Ninasam people here. So they would sit and listen and hear about things that happened, how they did things in the past, how life went on. And that was important education. So I think that a spirit of inquiry, somebody wanting to learn always, wanting to know what makes this work, how does this happen, where is this? That's one sign of being educated. Secondly, have compassion. If you don't have compassion, if you don't feel for somebody else, if you don't feel for animals, if you don't care about rivers, if your heart does not break when a huge tree is being hacked down, what sort of an educated person are you? You live in this world. You live with your surroundings around you. It must break your heart if somebody is doing something to a small cat, to a small boy, somebody is bullying somebody, somebody is coming and felling a whole lot, somebody is damming a river. You must feel it. It must mean something to you. And the third thing, let me see, I forgot what I just wanted to say. And the third thing, yes, is tolerance. You must be tolerant. You're not an educated person, to my mind, if you are narrow-minded, if you want to stick to your own ways, if you believe that the way you do it, and you were taught to do it, and the way your family does it, and the way your caste does it, and the way your community does it, is the only way. I have had persons in the bookstore, staff that I have engaged from Goa, and to them, when we took them to Delhi for the first World Book Fair, they were appalled. They said, we can't eat this kind of food. What is this dal and this potatoes in it? And that, we want our curry and rice. So the first day they went to the market, brought one coconut, came back, scraped it, made some curry. But then, 2 days, seeing what food was around and tasting things and so on, by the third day, they had forgotten fish curry rice and they were eating chapati and paratha and liking it like everybody else. So there is a tolerance which you have. You may not like the food, but you can't say this is rubbish. You can't say these people are low because of that. You may not like the way they live and so on, but you have to tolerate it and you have to try and appreciate it, at least see what is it that makes that work. To my mind, I would say, this is what education must bring. And the last thing that I want to say, I've crossed my time, I know, with Claude, but he's generous, he won't say anything. I told him, remind me, he said, how do I stop you? So the last thing that I want to say is that education, when we set out with our children and set out in our marriage, was about freedom. It was about giving the other, including our children who are the others, freedom. And freedom, my friends, has no limit. When you give that freedom, it goes. You take it with you. Sometimes you don't like what's happening. You see your sons have some friends which you don't think are right, but you have to trust that they will get out of it. Maybe you can say a few things and give a few advice and so on. But freedom goes not, you cannot say, I give you freedom in education, but I'll control the freedom in marriage. You cannot say, I'll give you freedom in education, but I'll control the way you dress. Because freedom is, once you give it, it's an expression. It's something that they take and they manifest it in different ways. They might manifest it in the times they wake and the times they sleep. My youngest son, who runs a web design thing of sorts, well, he sleeps in the day and works at night because that works for him in some way. So you have to have some kind of a faith that you have brought them up, you are bringing them up well, that you are around, that you are watchful, and that they will do you proud someday. Thank you.
Well, I always have a disadvantage when talking with my wife because she is so much prettier than me. Don't stand a chance most of the time in competing with what she has to say. So we had an agreement yesterday that she would talk about the way we took the children to school, and I would speak a little bit about their encounter with the university. I said yesterday, how did we deal with university schooling? Because we are both academics. We both did our academic education, and now we are telling people that academic education is a waste of time. And we had that encounter with them. They would ask us, what is the meaning of this book? And what is the meaning of this article? And I still remember my youngest son coming, he was doing political science. Because we told him, if you want, you go. If you don't want, you don't go. That's not our problem. Once you are set free from us, you are set free from us. There is no way in which we are going to say, you do this, you want to do botany, you do, you want to do political science, but we warn them that they would get nothing from this time that they would spend in college. And when my youngest son came to me and said that, look, they are teaching us this piece by Robert McIver or something from 1970 or something, then I told him, I said, see, if you read these type of things, you will positively damage your brains. He said, what do? I've got to pass an examination. So I said, you pass the examination. We are not bothered whether you pass or you fail. We are not bothered whether you get first class or second class or third class or whatever. You pass. If you don't want to pass, you can stand and continue for one more year and continue. Because there are advocates who take 10 years to pass the examination. What is a great deal? I mean, there's no problem at all. So what we are trying to convey is that this thing about that you should have breakfast at this time, lunch at this time, tea at this time, this is all manufactured. You must go to this school, you must continue, you must get these marks, you must get these grades, you must get all these really don't make any sense at all. This woman is first class first. I am a first class first. Nobody in 50 years has asked us what was the rank we had in school, what we had in college. She was a gold medalist. Because she got a gold medal, I couldn't get it because that year both of us had the same amount of marks, but gold medal went for history and not for philosophy, so she took it away. But nobody asked us, and nobody even asked us to produce a certificate about whether we are BA, MA, PhD, Khichdi, whatever. Nobody asked us. And so we always begin, now at least we say, let us try and persuade our young people that parcha, that piece of paper, is really of no use whatsoever. Because nobody is going to ask you at all in your entire life, even after you are dead, where is your degree? Some people put it up on the wall. Only collects dust. But nobody ever asks you for that parcha. When we have employed people now for the last 30 to 40 years, ever since we started these institutions and all, we used to put an ad in the newspapers, education no bar. Because we wanted people to come who are street smart. But we would get only the MAs who did not know what to do with themselves and who are totally unemployable because they could not write a single letter. Goa University students coming from MA cannot write a single letter, cannot write proposal, cannot do. We have to do them charity instead by employing them, by training them. And the university has made all the money. We have got the hard work. So we have found that if you didn't go through this channel of university education, the amount of degrees that have been thrown at us by all these youngsters yesterday during the introduction, I was quite, I mean, if you don't worry about these things, we take a more relaxed attitude about these things. And life is much more wonderful, and you should deal with your parents also in the same way. You may not have parents like us, but you may have parents who are difficult, but you have to You have to tell them that you love them, that you want everything for them. You will not fight with them, but you must have the ability to still do what you want. You can't break your links with your parents. They are the ones who brought you. There is an emotional link. Ultimately, they are the ones who will be there at the time of need or whatever. But you still have got to, that's why you got to love them unlimited. But you know that people can be killed by love. And parents kill their children with love. So you be very careful of that, and you try and see how you can negotiate the routes. Longer absences, going to other places, whatever it is. But you have to ensure that learning is something that is something which will happen to you because of you, not because of anybody else. That is why our bias against teachers. We have got nothing against teachers. They are also doing an honorable profession. But we have got excess of teaching and very little of learning. Learning has gone out of the window. Now we have got only teaching. And let's face it, most teachers are very bad. They don't have a story to tell. They are not great teachers. They didn't go to an oratory school to be able to talk in a class and, to youngsters and keep them from going to sleep. Most speeches are difficult. So when these guys came to us and they said that, look, should we study all this? We said, you do. We literally said, we have gone through the whole gamut of all the subjects. Every subject possible. We used to be these Lewis Mumford type of generalists. We had read into anthropology, into sociology, into political science, philosophy, whatever, everything, literature, whatever. But we realized this whole thing is just one's intellectual bubble. And if you want, you can get into that bubble and remain in that bubble for the rest of your life. You're an English literature professor for 40 years, no problem at all. But on the other hand, you can bypass it all because it's created as a system of indoctrination for a particular time in a particular space, particular time, particular space, particular period. And if you get entrapped in it, then the vocabulary, the words, the ideas, the exchanges will take place only within that sphere and not outside. Ashish Nandi always says that if you are fighting with your opponents, find out who is supplying the categories of discourse. If your enemy is supplying them, you are going to lose. It's the person who controls the words that are used in a discourse. That's the person who controls the entire discourse itself. So you have to be very careful all the time in how you look at the entire structure of academic knowledge that has come to us. Academic knowledge, we get frightened of it because most of us see books. If a person has written a book, that means we put him already on a higher pedestal from a rickshaw driver or from something else. He's he has written a book. So that means he's a man of the mind. And we are devoted to men of the mind. If he has written 5 books, he's even more terrifying. And if he has written 50 books, okay, Gandhiji wrote 97. But anyway, these are things that weigh on our souls for all our time. Now the interesting thing that we found when my youngest son came with his Macabre fellow was this entire structure of studies that was given to us. And we studied innocuous. I did Western philosophy and Indian philosophy. I did Shankara, I did Aurobindo, but I also did a lot of Heidegger and all these other fellows. But by and large, the entire structure of education at college, university has been imported. The main categories, the founders, the main ideas, the main theories, everything has come from abroad. There is nothing in any of these disciplines, you can say, has come from ourselves, as a culture, as a civilization of 5,000 years. As a matter of fact, all the things that we have done over 5,000 years, we have discarded. Like nobody can give any reply to why Ramayana is not taught in school, why Mahabharata is not taught in school. I mean, everybody in this population knows it. And the Mahabharata has every discussion that you want on politics and philosophy in it, but it is because, as somebody said yesterday, it is secular India business. We have kept these things out of. This is the only civilization that does it. If you go to Sweden or Holland or Japan or whatever it is, they don't have a bias against what their fathers and forefathers have produced. Nobody has that type of bias. Only in India, because of Macaulay, we have that bias. Whatever was created by us, we look on with contempt if we are educated. And that's the reason is because of our European origins. We are Europeans in that sense. Because we can be understood in Europe, but we can't be understood in the village next door. If you take these lectures on any subject that you want and go to a village and talk, you'll say, what is this man talking about? What words is he using? Somebody used the word binary. I told my wife, see, educated person, binary. Immediately you know. He said, there's such a chasm between us and the people in Hegodu or in Para, in my own village. I am ashamed if I have to have a discussion with my neighbors, what I would talk with them, because whatever I've read and whatever I've done, my PhD and so on, is just not intelligible to them. And what they are preoccupied with it doesn't sometimes synchronize with what I want to do. Now I have, in a certain sense, deprofessionalized myself now. And I don't read any more books and all. I stopped reading a long time back, because I found that you only, in books, when you read a book, you only read what the other, he's reading, quoting some 30 fellows. Those 30 fellows are quoting another 30 fellows. And it's going around in a circle and circle and circle. I was trying to encourage youngsters, can you write one-page note without quoting anybody? So most people find it difficult. Rajaram Tolpadi, can anybody in your university write a page today without quoting somebody? The more you quote, the better. So you quote 40 people, you are more learned because you had the time to read 40 people, while somebody else had to go and really work the field and produce the food for you. But you are quoting 40 people. And in the end, we don't know what your mind is because of those 40 people that come in the way. So can you write? Gandhiji wrote 97 volumes, but he didn't quote anybody. Did he quote anybody? What's wrong about you that you can't be quoted? That you are not willing to quote yourself? So this was what we started rebelling and why we started the multiversity. We said that it's important that we get people to try and understand that if you have not produced something of your own, and in India, you can look at the entire academic culture that has come out. She talked about the academic books. When we began the bookstore, we began with academic types. It's not that we didn't begin. But after 3 to 4 years, my manager said, but these books are not selling. So we threw them out. All OUP, SAGE, everything, we just threw them out because they were not selling. As a businessman, you want something that your book has to sell. Otherwise, you are not making them. You have to pay salaries and so on. So we chucked them all out. So that unless we look at that in a very emotional way, it's not a rational thing. The rational thing, they'll always say, look, Louis Foucault, I don't know, Michael Foucault, I don't even know the names of most of these guys.
Michel.
Oh, Michel Foucault. See, yeah, he's an academically qualified person. I just don't know. When they talked about Derrida, I thought he was a bullfighter. So I'm not ridiculing any of these guys. They're all great people in their own right, in their own societies and so on. But in this country, what do they have to offer to people? And why are we burdened with those ghosts? If those ghosts liberated us, I can understand. But if they don't liberate, like Buddhism. Buddhism came from this country, but it liberated Japan. It liberated so many other countries. We have no objection. When some idea goes and liberates people, then it's a great idea because everybody benefits. But if the idea becomes an oppression, not a single one of those European ideas that have come in the last 300 to 400 years into India have really liberated anybody. At the most, they have made it they have made it feel more inferior. Inferiority is the number one criterion of all this. Professor was talking yesterday about, Sundar was talking about the people who get prizes and people who get Nobel Prizes. No Indians in them. But I would say screw those Nobel Prizes also. Because if you look at all the Nobel Prizes, there's no chance that you will get. If you look at even the citation index of all these universities with all this ranking and all, you have to pay now to get your article, in the citation index. Otherwise you don't get it. And a big business is set up to enable you to get your articles into peer-reviewed journals so that, you have a good citation in this thing and you can get some promotions and you can go around it. But otherwise, it's a politically controlled battle. You can't get inside there. It's their world. They give the awards to themselves. Because how the hell can a Swedish Nobel whatever academy that is, short of the fact that one of them was also involved in this, got hit by the Me Too movement. How the hell does somebody in Sweden understand, or what is happening in Indonesia in the local language to be able to decide that it was a great work of art or not? He's never going to take that decision. Because he's never going to be exposed. He's never going to read Bahasa Malaysia in his life. So if a great work came in Bahasa Malaysia or in Hindi, there's no chance that you can be considered. We have to first consider, get it translated into English, then promote, then there's all sorts of other things to do before you ultimately get into consideration. But it's a controlled club. Wikipedia is a controlled club. You write anything on any Indian subject which does not suit the editors of Indian in Wikipedia, they remove it within 24 hours. They show India, the Takshashila and Nalanda universities, as centers of ancient learning. They don't want to call them universities because they want to say that the first university in the modern world is Bologna in 1058. That's the first university because they create their own mythology and their own history and everything. Because they are a nation of conquerors. They are right now they are in conquest. We are the inferior class. So in that sort of a situation, don't think that you can ever get into these type of things. You forget about them. They said, no, you are being unnecessary. Why shouldn't we be doing physics? Physics shouldn't be doing mathematics. Physics deals with dead bodies, with the motions of dead bodies. Why did you not work on living bodies? Jagdish Chandra Bose worked on living bodies, plants. And he created the paradigms of working with plants. But botany, in which we are strong, all these other things which deal with the living planet with which we are strong, we gave up because we went for physics. Physics says it's dead bodies. Once you have dead bodies, you're dead. You'll be with that. You'll go on with theories and so on, but none of those theories is really going to ever help you. If you know living bodies, it will help you. If you know plants, it will help you. If you know microbes in the soil, it will help you. If you know all these, how termites work, how earthworms work, how all these things work, they will help you. All the things that deal with life were ours. And physics was there. We should have let them do the physics. So we could continue with it. But we have abandoned it, just like we have abandoned so many other things to chase after what they were doing. So multiversity was set up to say, crack this system. In our conferences, 7 international conferences, we didn't invite a single white from any university abroad. We said, no, we don't want any whites. So we had great time. People from Africa, people from South Pacific, all sorts of fellows coming. For the first time, since there was no white in the room, they were all free. They were all saying whatever they wanted. If there's one white man in the room, they'll say, now should we say this because he's a white man. But if he's a black man, then we don't mind saying anything about blacks. One white fellow is there in the audience, will automatically be very worried about, are we offending? So we had to work by exclusion. Other than their bookstore, worked by exclusion. They said their bookstore will fail. Because all books today come from New York or from England. There's no way you can sell books. So we said, no, we are going to exclude. We excluded all books. We said, you want to sell a book in our bookstore, it must be written, printed, and published by somebody from this part of the world. And we succeeded. And today is the only bookstore that has survived. All the others are dying. Because we got some story to offer. And we are giving people a space. And we are telling people that you have a mind, you have the ability to write, you have the ability to publish. What you are saying is as important as Michel Foucault. or anybody else on this planet. Because every concept in life, there's no progression. There's no better and worse. You use, it's like life is like a counter, a total odometer. You press it, you can start again at some particular time. In subjects like sociology, political science, you can scrap the entire tradition of books and start again, provided you got your own story to tell. I said, this is ridiculous. I said, do you know how the film industry operates? Film industry operates, they never start with a script. Yeah, I think there was a script for a play yesterday. Anyway, it would have made no difference because it was in Kannada. But there was this film by Pritish Nandi, where there was an American actor who was in the play, and they contacted him in New York, and he said, okay, I'm coming. He has a small role to play, but he's interested in the script. They said, give me the script. So they said, we'll give you the script when we are in India. So when he comes to India at the airport, he says, where's the script? We'll give you the script, but just wait. When the set is set up and we are starting, we'll give you the script. So went on delaying, till the entire film is shot. And finally, after the film is shot, they said, here is the script. The script comes after the movie has been shot, because you maintain the openness to creation, to innovation, so that your film is a brilliant idea, because nobody has ever seen it the way you're looking at it, moment to moment, and shaping it up as it goes. So I suggested, as a matter of fact, to many of my university colleagues, if you are teaching sociology, don't begin with the sociology book. Don't begin with Anthony Giddens or something. Most of these guys should be literally, shot with AK-47 gun for whatever damage they have done to people's minds. But begin with society. End up with a textbook at the end of the year. Let the students write the textbook. They will face realities. You want a philosophy course? Begin the first philosophy encounter in a slaughterhouse. They understand ahimsa very well. I don't know of anybody who has not gone to a slaughterhouse who has eaten meat after that. Go and sit there in the slaughterhouse, look at all the blood, look at all the animals, look at all that, and then you begin a discussion on ahimsa. Or go to a riot-torn area. We have got many in the country. BJP, RSS keep on producing these every day. There's no problem. Begin with this situation and then move back. Then you will find that all the youngsters are back in the college. Today you will have to go with guns and they will not come to college. Or they will come with mobile phones and they will do. And I encourage wholesale copying, copy-pasting, mobile texting, everything. Do it as best as possible so that the fellow doesn't hear. He also doesn't want to interfere when he sees people are doing. He just wants to rattle off his notes and go. So it's a very ideal situation for doing, for keeping intact your innate and earnest desires to learn. So thank you very much.
The whole thing about the university where you started the course, I wanted to bring up that philosophy course. Have you done it?
Yeah, what she's reminding me of is when we design, we have designed several courses in what we call non-Eurocentric courses. Now, a Eurocentric course can be taught in the US and it can be taught in UK, but it can't be taught here. It's being taught here, but it's really, it's not the right thing to do. But the courses we designed were such that you could teach them in any part of the world. You could teach them in the US, you could teach them in China, you could teach them because they were, when we took science, for example, history and philosophy of science, which I said, no, is not taught in this country at all. History and philosophy of science, you could teach by showing how science originated in different parts of the world, not just in Greece. People say mathematics, we owe something to mathematics. I keep telling people, if you think Greeks knew how to count and Romans knew how to count, what are the akshara which they used to use? Roman numerals. Can you count Roman numerals after 40? You think they were capable of doing mathematics? There's such great mythologies. Raju, C.K. Raju, who is one of our great mathematicians and one of my colleagues, he said they have created such an elaborate mythology of people who are, they even know what Euclid looks like, though nobody knows whether even a man like Euclid even existed. But in the NCERT textbook, there's a picture of Euclid. To that extent, we have gone to idealize civilization. He said Euclid may have been a woman actually. Coming from Egypt. So it's something that we have to be very careful of. This is the first type of, pre-installments of fake news that we got long time back. Before, that this fellow did this, that fellow did this, and all that. Ganit, for example, Ganit is the tradition of counting. Ganita is an ancient Indian tradition. It's not Vedic mathematics. Ganit. Now, do you know Ganit goes from India to Arab world? It goes to the Arab world. There is our Al-Khwarizmi who translates it. He translates it and calls it Kitab al-Hind. Then from there it goes to Europe, 10th, 11th century. Now, Al-Khwarizmi, by its use, becomes algorithm. So, you automatically think algorithm is Greece. Therefore, mathematics is from Greece. But algorithm is just a perversion of Al-Khwarizmi. And he is referring to the mathematical traditions of India, which he has copied and given to those fellows. Now, those fellows, when they get the zero, which comes not from Hinduism but from Buddhism, please note, they don't know what to do with the zero. They said, this is a very funny thing. If you add 1 0 to any one figure, it multiplies. If you add 2 zeros, it becomes, from 10, it becomes 100. You add one more zero, it becomes 1,000. That's how, when it was first introduced, when Europe first came to know about it, and they were all writing out these checks. The check is written with the full words 400, 400, but also written in words 400 only. That is a contribution not of the West, but is a response of the West to the zero. Because they don't understand. They said that they were with the abacus. The abacus is put in a museum today. You cannot get an abacus used anywhere. You may find it in some Istanbul restaurant or something, but otherwise, who uses? This was their main computing device, which has been put into the basket. The calculus of Aryabhat. Now some of these Brahmins have made it Aryabhatta, but it's actually Aryabhat. He was from the lower caste. He was not a Brahmin. His work was used by the Kerala school of mathematicians who were Brahmins. They had no problem because knowledge is knowledge. Even if it comes from somebody who is not a Brahmin, you still accept it. They formed, from there it goes to Europe, and it becomes part of the traditions of Europe. And then from there it comes back to us, but it comes with Christian metaphysics. And we can't understand mathematics anymore. Our children hate mathematics today because we are teaching it the way the West has learnt it, which is with all their muddled metaphysics, that there are infernal laws of physics. Where does this idea of laws come from? Nobody knows. But their tradition, God is eternal, works with eternal laws. That has come into physics. You take your mathematics, formal mathematics. I asked Raju, I said, Professor Raju, with formal mathematics, do you need formal mathematics to go to the moon? He says, no. He says, we only require differential mathematics. We have had that already more than several centuries ago. But he says, if you use formal mathematics only to earn an income. Because formal mathematics is formal mathematics. It's tautological. You don't have any new knowledge in formal mathematics. The tautological system works according to its own assumptions, own deductions, or whatever it is, but sum totalist doesn't teach you anything new. So what is the use of burdening our children's heads with all this? Give them Ganit. Ganit is available everywhere. Ganit, even if you go a carpenter, he knows how to measure without going to school. He will use his fingers, his hands, haath, vagara, and he'll give you the most precise cupboard or chair or whatever it is. Don't try and think that school and university are associated with these things. Every adult in this country is adult educated, but only has not gone to university. If he has not gone to university, he has still got his head on his shoulders, and he will be able to find a solution for you. We think that adult education or higher education is the same thing because it comes from there. But higher education is, if you look at higher education in the society, outside the university, you can find 1 million people in higher education. Because they are not children, they are not doing primary education, they are not doing secondary, they are doing higher education because they got adult brains, they are interacting with the environment, they are creating new categories every day, they are finding solutions to problems which we don't know. The most innovative society that we have got in this country today, from the roadside mechanic to wherever, this is the same country which produced 300,000 varieties of rice without a single scientist. I mean, all these big ICR research institutes. 300,000 varieties. I went to Philippines. I saw 72,000 varieties there. I saw 60,000 varieties in Cuttack. I saw 19,000 varieties in MP Research, Rice Research Institute, collected by Risharia. This came over several thousand years without any ICR. But today with ICR, we got about 5-6 varieties, and all of them constantly getting hit by disease. But we feel that we don't have a science, we don't have a scientific tradition. It all comes from the West, it's all come from Rome. My wife used to tell me, we had a big fight. Nothing exists on this planet.
Nothing moves on this earth that is not Greek in origin. Comment. That was
the comment in your history class.
History paper, which we used to prepare for.
Yeah, and her professor said it with, you take it or leave it. That's what it was. And because of Greece, we don't even know, today is a bankrupt nation completely. Today we, with this tradition, I'm not talking about just tradition of innovation, is now facing what they call a crisis, learning crisis.